The rain had been falling all afternoon, turning the streets into shining ribbons of gray. Inside the small neighborhood park, most people had already gone home. The swings creaked quietly in the wind, and puddles gathered beneath the benches. Daniel Carter sat alone on one of those benches, watching his 6-year-old son, Liam, chase a paper boat along the edge of a puddle. Daniel was used to being invisible. Since his wife passed away 3 years earlier, life had become a quiet routine of survival. 2 jobs, endless bills, and the constant worry of raising a child alone. He didn't have much, but Liam's laughter was the one thing that made the world feel a little lighter. "Dad, look, it's sailing," Liam shouted, pointing proudly at the soggy paper boat. Daniel smiled softly. Captain Liam, the greatest sailor in the world. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Then he noticed the black SUV parked near the park entrance. It was sleek, expensive, and completely out of place in their modest neighborhood. A woman stepped out, holding an umbrella over a young girl in a wheelchair. The girl looked about Liam's age. Her legs were thin and still, covered by a soft blanket. But her eyes, bright, curious, and full of wonder, watched the puddles as if they held some kind of secret magic. The woman pushing the wheelchair looked exhausted. Not physically, but emotionally, as if life had been pressing down on her for years. They stopped near the playground. The girl watched Liam's paper boat float across the puddle. "Mom," she whispered softly. "I want to try." The woman hesitated. Her voice trembled. "Sweetheart, you know the doctor said." "I know," the girl said quietly. "But it looks fun." Daniel felt something twist inside his chest. He had heard that tone before, the careful, protective voice of a parent who had been told too many times that their child couldn't do something. Liam ran over. "Hi, do you want a boat?" he asked the girl excitedly. The girl's face lit up. "Yes." Daniel walked over and crouched beside them. He pulled an old receipt from his jacket pocket and folded it quickly into another small paper boat. "Every great sailor needs a boat," he said with a gentle smile. The girl giggled. "Thank you." The woman watched quietly, studying Daniel with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Emily," the girl said proudly. "My name is Emily." "I'm Liam," his son replied. "And this is my dad." Emily placed the paper boat carefully in the puddle. Liam guided it forward with a small stick. For a few minutes, the park felt alive again. Emily laughed as the tiny boat drifted through the water. Then something unexpected happened. Emily leaned forward slightly, reaching toward the puddle. Her fingers trembled. Her legs twitched. It was small, almost invisible. But Daniel saw it. The woman saw it too. She froze. "Emily," she whispered. Emily's foot moved. Just a tiny motion, barely lifting beneath the blanket. But it moved. The woman's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God." Emily looked down at her legs, confused. "Mom, did you see that?" The woman's eyes filled instantly with tears. "Yes," she choked. Daniel stepped back slightly, sensing the moment was deeply personal. But the woman suddenly turned to him. "How did you do that?" Daniel blinked in surprise. "I didn't do anything." But she shook her head. "You don't understand." Her voice cracked. "Emily hasn't moved her legs in 2 years." The rain fell harder, but none of them seemed to notice. The woman wiped her tears quickly. "My name is Victoria Hayes." Daniel didn't recognize the name immediately, but he soon would. Victoria Hayes was one of the most powerful business leaders in the country. Her technology company was worth billions. Her face appeared regularly on magazine covers and financial news channels. But right now, she didn't look like a billionaire. She looked like a mother who had just witnessed a miracle. Emily tried moving her foot again. It twitched once more. Victoria collapsed to her knees beside the wheelchair, crying openly now. "You did it, sweetheart, you did it." Emily smiled shyly. "I just wanted to play." Victoria looked up at Daniel, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand what this means." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "I'm really glad she's happy." But Victoria shook her head. "No, this is bigger than that." She explained between tears that Emily had suffered a rare neurological condition after a severe infection. Specialists from across the country had tried treatments, therapy, and experimental medicine. Nothing worked. Doctors eventually told Victoria that Emily might never regain movement in her legs. Hope slowly faded. Until today, Emily moved again. All because she leaned forward to play with a paper boat in a puddle. Victoria looked at Daniel with a mixture of awe and gratitude. You reminded her how to be a kid. Daniel's voice was quiet. She already knew how. She just needed the chance. The next few weeks changed everything. Victoria insisted on bringing Emily back to the park again and again. Each visit became a small adventure: paper boats, chalk drawings, blowing bubbles. Daniel and Liam joined them often. Emily's movements slowly improved. First a twitch, then a small lift. Then one afternoon, while holding the edge of the bench, Emily stood for 2 seconds. Victoria cried harder than she ever had in her life. But the biggest surprise came later. One evening, Victoria visited Daniel's small apartment. The place was humble: second-hand furniture, a tiny kitchen, toys scattered across the floor. Daniel looked embarrassed. Sorry about the mess. Victoria shook her head softly. This is the warmest home I've been in for years. She looked at Liam, who was building a tower of blocks with Emily. Then she turned back to Daniel. I've spent millions trying to help my daughter walk again. Her voice trembled. And somehow, the moment that changed everything happened in a puddle with a paper boat. Daniel chuckled softly. Kids don't need much. Victoria's eyes filled with tears again. You gave my daughter hope. Daniel shook his head. She did that herself. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Inside were documents. Daniel, I want to start a foundation. He frowned slightly. A foundation? Yes. Her voice was steady now. For children with disabilities who can't afford therapy, equipment, or treatment. She placed the folder on the table. And I want you to help run it. Daniel stared at her in shock. Me? You understand something many doctors and specialists forget. What's that? Victoria smiled gently. That healing isn't always about medicine. Daniel looked at Liam and Emily laughing together on the floor. It's about hope. Months later, the story spread across the country. Not about the billionaire. Not about the company. But about a single father who folded a paper boat in the rain. Emily continued improving. Step by step. Day by day. And every time she took another small step forward, Victoria remembered the moment in the park. The moment her daughter laughed. The moment hope returned. And the moment a struggling single dad unknowingly gave her family something money could never buy. A miracle born from kindness.